we're gonna continue with last week's episode with a couple little things. One, oh man, old Ben Hilsinger. I know you know who he is. Mm-hmm. Reached out, drummer for Eve 6. Dude, why do we always assume that no one listens to this podcast?
I know, it's such a dumb move because one day it's going to get us in some serious trouble, mate.
Yeah, luckily we spent 10 minutes talking about how amazing that song was. So we were talking about an Eve 6 song in last week's podcast. If you haven't listened to that, please go listen to it. And basically I was saying that oh my God, I cannot believe how sick the drums were, and how did I miss out on this when this is music I listened to back in the day. So he reached out. He's actually been the drummer for 5 years, so he didn't write those drum parts. He's also has his own podcast called the Big Fat Five Podcast. It's part of the, I don't know if he is part, let me see. I've got his webpage up here, benhilsinger.com, if you guys want to check him out. LA drummer. Oh, by the way, you would love his other band, Cannons. Holy hell, right up your alley, bro.
Good name.
Cannons is awesome. Written, recorded. He's got a bunch of stuff. I'm just trying to think. I'm trying to see. Artist. Okay, so he's the director of artists and relations for Big Fat Snare Drum. I knew I'd met him before. Because he sent me, he reached out, then he sent me a voice note, and then I checked out his page, and I was like, wait, are you an actor? Like, I know I've seen your face before. And then I was like, I think I've seen him at NAMM. And so I've definitely met him through Big Fat Snare Drums.
Yeah, nice.
So anyways, he reached out and basically just said some really nice things. And like I said, we were very lucky that we spent 10 minutes talking about how amazing the drums were. But he said that the drummer that recorded those parts, he's like, dude, go back and dig through some Eve 6 albums. That drummer was sick and really knew his stuff. He did record all those drum parts. And then Ben was saying that, like, he's like, that song that we showcased, God, I can't even remember the name of the song now, but that it's basically his favorite song in the set list. He loves playing it and everything. So, yeah, it was really cool to hear from him. And then we just voice noted back a few times. So super, super nice guy. And I would love to have him on the podcast talking about, because I think there's something there, what he's got with Cannons, and I'll send you a link later, but amazing original band. He's in the band. I'm assuming he's probably like a founding member or something close to that, versus playing hit songs from a band. I mean, you go through it with Busted, I'm assuming, right?
Yeah.
You're playing hit singles that mean so much to somebody else, recorded by somebody else, and now you're in an arena playing these songs. Like,
yeah, it's an interesting dynamic, mate. It's funny you say that, because I experienced it recently when recording something. It's like you've got to pay tribute to what people love and what people are used to, and also what people are expecting. Do you know what I mean? You don't want to like play around with things too much or change things too much, but at the same time you want to keep it. You want to evolve it into something like current or better if you can make it better. So it is an interesting dynamic, especially going from a band that you play in and write all the parts to them playing someone else's parts. It's an interesting one, man. You've definitely got to play with a different brain and a head on, you know? It's
absolutely. Yeah. I mean, and because it's such a different thing. Like if you're doing a cover in a bar and you're playing some old Beatles tunes, like, cool, take some liberties. You're in a bar. It is what it is. You're not in the Beatles. Yeah. When all of a sudden you're in Eve 6, or, Steve Jordan taking over for Charlie Watts in the Rolling Stones. It's like, okay, well, Steve Jordan is one of the most famous drummers of all time to drummers. Charlie Watts was famous to everybody. So it's like, well, I want to put my stamp on this thing, but I also want to, the drum part was great as is.
Mate.
So then do I tune my drums exactly like that drum? Oh, man, what a head trip.
It must be intense on, like... the person that came to mind was Jay Weinberg from Slipknot.
Yeah.
Like, that must be so intense. We should get him on the podcast and talk about that, man, because
I would love that.
People obsessed with Joey and his parts, and those parts are iconic. So how do you then take that and, like... how do you play those parts exact? And when it comes to writing new albums, do you pretend to be what Joey was, but a different? Oh, mate, I don't even know how to describe it. It must be an absolute mess inside his head. But I mean, he's doing well. So
I mean, the biggest But yeah, he's doing just fine. And he doesn't have to play those ahead sticks, so he's doing great.
Exactly. Yeah.
The biggest one of probably all time had to be Sammy Hagar replacing David Lee Roth in Van Halen.
Oh
The
my God,
singer's
yeah.
getting replaced.
Yeah.
And yet they became almost equally. I mean, I haven't checked the album sales, but they did great with Sammy Hagar as Van Halen. But that's got to be a tough one. You're replacing the lead singer, and not like Journey, where it's like, okay, we're going to try to like have somebody that can hit the parts and emulate the voice. They were like totally opposite vibe. And yeah, we're not playing the old songs anymore.
Mate.
Like, whoa.
It's the definition of imposter syndrome, isn't it? It's like
Oh my
you're thinking,
God.
all right, I'm going to do those parts exact and nail them and please those people,
Right.
and then on the other part, on the other side of your brain, you've got like, actually, I'm going to do this and show people like, you know, I can fit in this band and I can
Yeah.
write original parts.
I
and all this
deserve
kind
to
of
be
stuff.
here.
I deserve to be here. Exactly. Yeah, it's got to be intense, mate. Very
All right.
intense.
Well, let's get back to last week's podcast.